All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Aiwyn Sessions, August edition here. If you can believe it, it's already August 4th. And today I'm going to be leading us for the most part. My name's Tanner Fritz. I'm one of the co-founders here at Aiwyn, and I lead our community. And so part of that is getting to interact with many of you on these webinars, coming in person, joining a lot of your go lives, your partner retreats. That's something I get to do with many of you. Get to come out and join your conferences, see you at Alliance conferences. So great to see all of you. I'm going to be joined today by my colleague Hayden Padgett, who is the head of product over our practice management product, which is going to be the focus for our conversation today. And we're going to go through some updates on the Aiwyn side, as well as interact with an Aiwyn customer. But before we do that, we're going to kick off just like we do every Aiwyn internal call, external call like this. We want to go through a bit about who Aiwyn is and why we're even here. So I'm going to read this for us. At Aiwyn, we believe entrepreneurs and markets are powerful forces for good, and professional accountants play the indispensable role of guide and guardian, allowing these forces to contribute to optimal value to society. And our mission here at Aiwyn is, because of that, to be a trusted technology partner. We want to be here for the long haul. I was just talking to a firm this morning about how this is really important to them. They want partners who are around for the long term, and that's key to us here at Aiwyn. Our commitment is that we'll continue to deliver innovative technology that really helps firms consolidate systems. There's been tech sprawl and point solution sprawl that has just been naturally come about in the industry over the years with all the service line needs. Our goal is to help continue to innovate, but also consolidate and do that in a way that is as a trusted provider. Today, we're going to talk through, again, real quick, I'll go through like we always do, some updates across the Aiwyn platform itself. I'll touch on each of these that you see on the right. Then we're going to interview an Aiwyn customer. Rosemary Land from Rubino Co is here. So we'll talk to her and we'll get a firsthand account of what it's like to go live with Aiwyn Practice. We're going to then switch over, have Hayden join and talk about what's new on the Aiwyn practice management side. We'll have Q&A time set aside for the end, but go ahead and feel free to put questions in the chat. Our team will try and field some of those in real time, and then any that we don't get to, we will go through on the Q&A section at the end. With that, let me go through some updates on each product itself. So first, Aiwyn Tax. For those of you who don't know, Aiwyn has been building a tax engine in the background for a number of years. And it's pretty exciting to see this come to life. But what we're building is an AI native tax engine and workflow that can take return preparation, filing, with the goal of taking those from hours down to minutes. We are actually currently looking for firm feedback as we get rolling on the return delivery side. So if you are interested in giving us feedback as you think about what return delivery solution should look like, we're in the process of getting that feedback now. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to your customer success manager, but we are looking for feedback from firms really in the next few weeks. We've got ongoing conversations now. That's the Aiwyn tax solution. More to come there. Nothing in the market yet, but we are building in the background on that right now. On Aiwyn payments, this is sometimes referred to as Aiwyn payments and collections and accounts receivable automation. Many, if not most, Aiwyn customers use this product today. The goal here is to accelerate payments into a growth driver. And we've been really fortunate to see this happen since the beginning of Aiwyn. A couple of things I want to mention here. We're really focused right now on Aiwyn payments and the ability for firms to have more reporting, more transaction transparency. So what you'll be seeing from Aiwyn in our releases now is focused around custom reporting capabilities, more payment method and schedule management, as well as some additional more innovative things like agentic solutions in the future. But keep your eye out for what we've got coming out here. If you're not getting our monthly newsletter, you absolutely should be. This is the primary area where we're pointing to our release notes for all things every month that comes out across the Aiwyn solutions. On the Aiwyn experience side, a couple things to point to here. Aiwyn's unified client portal is what we view as a consolidated better client experience. Again, talking through part of our mission being able to say that we want to have a unified, consolidated platform. We know that that means that across different service lines with your clients, we need to figure out how to do that well. What's been really interesting is over the last year and a half, as we've gone more and more to market with engagement letters and a client portal that can bring in third-party tools, we're hearing from firms how they want this to really live and breathe. And many firms want this full consolidation that takes all service line tools and puts them into the Aiwyn kind of wraps client experience. Others are saying, hey, we'd love to have more of a tile embedded experience. And so we would love to engage with you as you're thinking through this if you haven't already. But some of the updates that we've got on our platform for you to be aware of now. We've got an update to our engagement letter template creation, which is more of a guided template creator. We've got the ability to batch create multi-entity engagements. And we're doing some really exciting things on the e-signature side where we are sending e-signature requests as well as Aiwyn manage file storage. More to come on all things experience. And then lastly, the Aiwyn practice management. I'm going to skip a little bit of the highlights here because Hayden's going to talk about these later. But this is what we're talking about today is a modern practice management solution that can allow your firm to have the foundation needed for the future. All right. High level here, the complete Aiwyn platform. Just a reminder that all things Aiwyn are modular. You can use one of these, you can use all of them. They're built and designed in a way that they should be complementary and you should get more value if you're using more and more of the solutions themselves. Okay, with that, let me pause here. I'm really excited to introduce Rosemary Land, and Rosemary comes to us from an Aiwyn customer who I guess you've been with us for a number of years, Rosemary, and we're really excited to have you here on the call. I would love to kick off just by maybe letting you introduce yourself, talk about how long you've been with the firm, who the firm is, and give everyone just a quick overview of who Rosemary and Rubino is.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Rosemary Land. I'm the accounts receivable manager here at Rubino. We do tax, audit, and assurance services and CAS services. I oversaw the implementation of Aiwyn and its ongoing progress, and I oversee our billing and collections operations and Aiwyn engagement letters.
Awesome. I think your title is not providing the scope of everything you do. Just even hearing the number of Aiwyn solutions that you are the administrator and manager for.
I've been hearing that a lot lately.
Yeah. You've been really the focus in terms of the all things operations as the executive at Rubino. Can you give everybody just a little bit more picture of Rubino? Where are you guys based? What's the size of the firm? What types of clients do y'all work with?
We're based in Bethesda, Maryland. We work all over. We cover nonprofits, government, housing authorities, individual businesses of every shape and size. A little bit of everything at this point.
Fantastic. So yeah, you guys are a regional firm up in the Mid-Atlantic there, and you've been around for a long time. What we want to start with is talking about before Aiwyn and specifically before Aiwyn Practice. Obviously, you've been an Aiwyn Payments customer for a number of years, but before just about this time a year ago, you were already moving forward with the Aiwyn solution on the practice side. But before that, love to hear from you on what the billing process looked like at Rubino, from work being completed to getting an invoice out the door. Give us a picture for that and where the firm was at.
We were working in the desktop-based CCH ProSystem, and for billing, like getting it out the door, we were still giving out billing books and whips by email, and waiting for staff to give us a draft, get it back to them, come back to us, strict billing periods, just an overall very manual process with a lot of back and forth.
Yep. Yeah. And not surprising for those of you who've heard the Aiwyn story, how we got started. When we first started the Aiwyn company, we were interviewing a number of firms. This was right post-COVID. And one of the large partners at one of the firms essentially had that same process, Rosemary. So I don't think that this is a surprise to anybody on the call. Very manual and printing out paper taping it to the wall, writing it up, writing it down.
Well, at least
And
we had moved to email.
you moved to email, which is good. Yeah. No, I think a lot of times there are firms who are still very manual, paper, analog process based. When you think back on the prior life here, what were some of the biggest points of friction or delay that the firm had?
Um, Time entry, getting people to enter time, getting them to not be too busy to do their bills, and getting them back after they did get a draft, and just being able to track that process.
Yeah. Did you all have much visibility into the billing status or the WIP or realization before invoices went out?
No, not on the scale that we do now. It was, you could maybe see that you had entered a draft, but not when and how long it's been there and whether it should be coming back or not.
Yep.
So not much.
From a systems perspective, so you mentioned you're on a legacy system, CCH ProSystem. Were there any other systems involved that the team should know about in terms of what was core for your billing operation?
For billing, no, everything was one system. CCH had modules for everything for managing the practice.
Okay. All right, so that's kind of the old way. There's sounds like there was risk of work falling through the cracks. There's delay. There's lack of transparency. Again, these are the themes that we hear all the time about what firms are trying to figure out how to get rid of some of these. And so I'd love to shift to at what point did you decide that the old way wasn't going to work? It wasn't support the future and the scale. When did that conversation start happening, and more so, why? Why did that start then?
Mostly CCH had become sort of clunky, slow, inefficient, and we needed to find a system that would work to support our growth. We were having more remote employees and we needed to support them. And we wanted to get bills out the door faster. So we wanted to automate some of those manual tasks that we were doing and get bills moving and increase the time between, or decrease rather, the time between, an invoice going out and collections.
Yep. Okay, so you've got an old system, you know it's not going to scale. You go out and you start to figure out where you're going to go next, and that's where Iwan comes into this conversation. Love for you to educate the audience, like what made Iwan feel like the right direction, not just as a billing tool, but more as a broader firm platform that you'd be considering. As these changes are hard, and so everybody who's on this call is likely going through these decision processes to understand they don't want to make this change twice in a decade, and would love for you to talk about what made Iwan feel like the right direction.
When we were looking, we did a couple demos, and a lot of them were covering one part of the practice. They weren't a complete practice management software. So they didn't have time entry, or they didn't have engagement letters, or they only had billing, but nothing else. And it was important for us to keep all of that in one place. We don't want to have, employees logging into multiple systems and then trying to coordinate the time entry over here to the bill over here. And it also gave clients access. And those were things that we didn't see with other systems.
Got it. So the ability to have more coverage was really important for you all. And to be
Yeah,
clear and candid with the audience, Iwan doesn't have everything yet. We're
not
working.
yet.
I know Hayden's going to talk about some of the resource and schedule management and scheduling, and then the even like workflow. We've got gaps to fill on some of those things, right? That we're working on. Tell us, a lot of times when I'm talking to firms, they know they need to move off of an older system. They know that they want something that is consolidated as a platform, like you're talking about, but they can get to kind of the 10-yard line before getting in the end zone and get hung up. And a lot of times that's because it's tough to make this type of move in terms of the internal change management. How did you and firm leadership, bring along that level of change? How'd that go about?
Um, in terms of like getting buy-in, or just
Yeah. Yeah.
we didn't.
How'd you get buy-in to do some of this?
You're not going to get buy-in from everybody. So eventually, the system has to be changed. The old system isn't going to work for much longer. And eventually, you just have to make decisions and move forward and share with everyone how that's going to make it better and manage their expectations and their skepticism, and make sure you can answer them. Don't leave them hanging. They're not going to buy in, but I can tell you after 20 years on our system, they've still managed to adapt. And it came with some challenges, but as long as we could answer questions and help them and be available, they get on board, they make it work, and they adapt.
I love that. Yeah, we see some firms kind of make decisions by committee, others who have more conviction at the leadership level and really move and then find ways to bring others along. And so it sounds like that you all did a little bit of blend of both of those. And you've come to the Aiwyn conference a bunch. I know that's been a helpful kind of just interactivity event for you where you get to see other firms. Was that a part of how you're thinking, just as a part of, hey, is this a partner I want to be aligned to long term and a platform I want to be aligned to? Maybe speak to that and plug for the Aiwyn conference unlock. It's in November. If you haven't registered for that, we'd love for you to come out. It'll be in Las Vegas this year. But how did that play in, just knowing that there's a community of other firms you can interact with?
I'd say that was a big part of it, but also having the opportunity to talk to Aiwyn's leaders directly and really feel comfortable with the fact that you were going to be around for a long time. We've been on ProSystem for 20 years, and we don't want to change again anytime soon. But we also wanted to know that we were choosing a partner that would stay up to date on technology and continue to grow with us and technology and general accounting. Um, but at the conference, it's also a great time to get to connect with others, network, talk about issues, share solutions, learn solutions, and share with Aiwyn what we hope and expect from them in the future.
No, I love that. One of the things that I'm really excited about for this year's conference, we have our entire product team coming. We haven't always had that in the past, but we've got like a 20-person product team that'll all be out there, and this is selfishly our best opportunity to go. Great, we're building return delivery. We want to get your feedback, Rosemary. We're building this on the resourcing side. We want to get your feedback. So if you're available to come out, we will absolutely eat up any time you'll give with us. And our product team is really focused on that out at Unlock. All right, so let's go to the kind of the implementation again. This is what, last December and end of last year, you all get ready to go live. You're in the first cohort of firms who are going live on Aiwyn Practice. We're now in the third cohort of firms, and we're scheduling out in the next summer at this point. So it's exciting for us to see that. And so you were helping really modernize this important workflow while the product's also maturing. And I'd love to hear from you. How did the rollout go? Where did your team have to work through? What advice would you give in terms of data hygiene and cleanliness? Let's talk through some of that experience.
I would definitely make sure you clean up your data as much as you can before you move over. Have email addresses for everybody, connect whatever you can, and honestly clear up whatever WIP and like progress billings you can. We had a lot of issues with that one in particular, just sort of connecting progress billings to old WIP that wasn't there. Make sure that staff, one of the things that we really did great with you guys was the sandbox environment. Lots of training for everybody. Make sure they have a chance to play around in it where they aren't worried about what they're going to mess up. Just definitely clean up all the data beforehand. Some of it's easier to clean up in Aiwyn, but whatever you can get done, do that first.
Love it. No, that's a great point. I've forgotten about the sandbox and just the ability to play and get your team's hands on. Aiwyn loves to come on site, for those of you who don't know, in terms of training and getting in person and doing design sessions even ahead of this on how we want to roll out software and what the best application is going to be. A lot of this is beyond the technology, right? There has to be change internally at the firm, and a lot of times when you roll out technology, I tell customers, like, use the system as the bad guy. If you want to change this behavior, this process, this ownership mindset to get value out of the platform, we will be your tool set to do that. Was there anything that came about for you all as you're thinking about process and behavior change during the implementation?
We did. We changed our billing process entirely, but also time entry. we Aiwyn has helped us really get that more under control, more timely, and just by moving to like real-time billing, it helped everyone in the firm have the visibility they needed to be on board for that and comply.
No, that's huge. Yeah. So one of your goals that you all stated early on when moving to Ireland was to go from this kind of retroactive billing and have a much faster billing speed. That was one of the big ROI data points. Um, we were really excited because we were looking at the stats as we were preparing for this, and your median days to bill moved from the low 50-day range down to about the 20-day range by June. What, if you can walk us through what was changed in terms of how you implemented this operationally to get that acceleration? Was there a moment where it started to click, or was it better visibility, workflows? What do you think that all came from?
So primarily better visibility. Um, it it let everybody know that they could now see their WIP in real time, bill it in real time. They could finish a return and say, "Hey, I want to bill this now." While the client wants the bill now, we're sending them their return. You could see all of that, and you could enforce policies that you weren't necessarily before because it didn't actually affect when you could bill. So you have time entry where before they still had to wait for it, and now they don't have to because they're going to tell you they want that time in because they want to do that bill now. So everyone can see and understand how it works. So the bills go out faster. Um, the collections come in because the client's also getting that visibility. But billers, it was just being able to go in and look at that WIP themselves and not have to wait for us to send them a report that says, "Hey, here's what happened in the last 30 days. Now it's, "Hey, here's what happened yesterday."
Love that. And I'm guessing that when you look at like realization trends and even when you're in busy season, you're in a month like March, that is critical to be able to see that data in real time. Are you seeing that from the actual partners who are working, the managers, and everybody has this data? What's the behavior been like for them in their interaction?
So a lot of them did get billed out faster during that period, whereas before they weren't going out until the end of billing season or billing busy season. But some of them did. They would finish a return and be like, "I know this client wants an invoice now, so I'm just going to go and put that one in." Because instead of having to look at all of their WIP and say, "Here's 100 clients that I want to bill," they can go with the client they're working on that they just signed the return and say, "I know I want to bill that. Just going to put that in real quick."
I love that. Moving kind of, now that the core billing and practice workflows are live, you as a firm have been pushing for deeper reporting, more visibility, more transparency. I'd love to talk about what you're thinking about in the next phase as you move from getting the system live to now using the data more strategically. What's top of mind for you there?
For using the data or just for what we're hoping to see from Aiwyn and how we're hoping to make better use of it?
I think they're both kind of the same. Like, when you're thinking about solving different questions that come up or having more transparency, what are the answers or the problems that you're trying to solve and the answers you're hoping to get?
So a lot of it comes down to just the data being available to add to a report. We don't have to post things anymore, so we can see when, for example, a client received a statement and how long it took them to pay it and whether or not they opened that. We can see what the realization for staff is on a specific client in real time. We don't have to wait for anything to close or be posted. We can use everything to track how staff are doing, how a client is doing, if we're going in the right direction, if we're using our time efficiently, if we're utilizing our staff, because we can see what they're doing in the system.
Love it. Awesome. Well, this is super helpful. And just kind of going back, thinking on this, for those who are considering a practice management change, would love to maybe summarize like how long do you recall how long it took for you all to implement Iwin, and you were even that first. I think you all started last August. Is that right?
We October. So we started for the October 15th busy billing system period time frame, and sort of just jumped right in. So that was a challenge in itself because it's the biggest billing period, and we just sort of went for it. and it worked.
Yeah, and I
But
can say that for those on the call, like that's only possible because Rosemary had a lot of agency and conviction with her leadership team to move and move very quickly to do something at a time that time of the year. And I think we started preparing maybe 12 weeks before that, but we
we
were able
did.
to get live in that tough time of year. Well, this is super helpful. Rosemary, thank you for bringing that up. We're going to shift and talk more about the firm and a little bit of the billing cycle. And Hayden, I'm going to invite you on. I know you as a firm have billed like 13 million through the platform and really feels like you've got confidence in terms of where you're going and how we're moving. But what I'd like to do is pass it to Hayden, who's going to walk us through a little bit more of the story, but then also talk more to the platform at large.
And Rosemary, please stick around because this is partly about you guys. I want to make sure you're one, keeping us honest, but two, we can brag on what you guys have done at Rubino a little bit more. One of the things I really enjoyed last year was getting to work with you guys to figure out how to get this thing live. As Tanner said, you were one of our first customers in the implementation process, and we were all kind of figuring it out together. And frankly, you guys are a perfect partner for that because you were so in it in the details and so ready to help us. Um, and the results, as shown here, I think speak for itself. It's a pretty sizable reduction in billing cycle time. Can you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I know you talked about some people getting bills out more regularly, and then some of the changes in visibility in it. But what do you see as the big unlocks that got you guys to this point? And kind of also more broadly, did that get you where you wanted to go? Are you at the end state you were hoping to get to with Aiwyn, or is there still room to grow?
Um, Honestly, it was the real-time billing, which we had originally thought we wouldn't be able to implement for about 18 months. We thought it would take longer to get everybody on board and sort of compliant with the time entry, but we were able to get there after the first billing cycle. And I think once they got the hang of it, that sort of helped with that and being able to see it and just know that they could. Because it's not that they didn't want to before, we just didn't have a system that really would facilitate it well.
And so that means it's not only the system, but then there's a certain rhythm, habits, processes that get built up that people use that get tied into
Yeah.
technology. How long did it take for folks to adapt those habits to the new possibilities within Aiwyn?
Honestly, as soon as they could, they did. So once they saw that it was available and ready and that the information was there and accurate and could trust it, they were ready to start.
Yeah, and even this morning, we were talking as we do regularly with all of our practice customers about some additional reports that you and the team were pulling, need to use for various things like looking at how much WIP was yet to be billed, and
Mm-hmm.
realizing you can pull some of that in real time, where you can see from a dashboard in real time. You don't actually need to pull a report down. Um, so there's things that I've been really excited to see you guys go through. Um,
Very
if we go
helpful.
to the next slide, there's a couple themes I wanted to pull out from this conversation you were having, and then conversations we've had over the last, oh geez, this is about a year now since we actually started this whole process with you guys. You talked a lot about not having visibility in WIP for the billers, but also the shareholders, and the fact that you're able to get that more readily now. You're not having to pull reports out in order to get this visibility into what WIP's there and then share those things around. And we just talked about the impact that's had on the time to get bills out and the cash flow as a result of that. You also touched on a little bit how the time entries and the billing process were not connected. They were like two different halves, and there really wasn't an impetus to get things in on time because you couldn't bill in real time. Can you talk us a little bit more about how the fact that you can bill in real time has changed the way people enter time?
Um, so we really needed their supervisors and managers to let them know how much that time was needed now before they knew that that it really didn't have to be in until the billing books needed to go out. And so letting them know that, hey, your manager wants to bill this now. and their manager saying, hey, I don't see your time here, put that in now so I can do the bill. It moved everybody to just do it and get there. But we also started enforcing our policies because billers and shareholders and managers wanted to do real time. So we set a strict deadline of 2 days is how long you have to get your time in, instead of your time has to be in by the 15th and the end of the month.
And I'm assuming that was not a new desire. You guys have wanted to enforce that policy for a while, hence why you had a policy. What
Yes.
about the system allowed you to actually enforce that?
For the system itself, we can go in and track it more readily because we're not just waiting until we go and post it. Posting daily would have been time consuming when we weren't using it every day, but now we can just go in and see right away, oh, they submitted it, it's there, or they didn't submit it. We need to go and tell them that they need to be out and have their time in.
And the last thing that we talked a lot about during implementation and then since is moving out of spreadsheets and into the actual system to actually run the work inside of one place. We just talked about how seeing unbilled WIP in the system is a big change. Now, you guys already were using your existing tools more readily for doing the actual bill processing itself, which is great and gave you guys a good head start. Were there any other things you were doing outside of technology that you were able to bring into the system and have a more comprehensive flow as a result?
Well, I'm down to one spreadsheet for everything because most of what I used to track in a spreadsheet, I can track directly on the draft invoices page. I can see the status of every bill. I can see if it's in draft, if it's been reviewed, if it's ready to be sent out. And we couldn't really do that before because they were holding on to a piece of paper. And we didn't know if they gave it to someone else to review or any of that. And now that's just all on the screen right in front of me every day.
That's great. That's great. Well, Rosemary, thank you so much for your time, for walking us through your journey. Thank you for being a customer of ours. I'm looking forward to seeing you in November in Las Vegas.
You will. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about practice as a whole. We talked about where we were, where Rubino's story has led them using Aiwyn Practice, but I also want you guys to get a sense for where we are going. But I first want to anchor back in what we're trying to do with it, what problems at a macro level we're trying to solve with practice. Our mission with the practice product is that it makes your firm more profitable every year you are using Aiwyn. We want you to be more efficient in the way you track time, more efficient in the way you bill time, more efficient in the way you collect on those bills, more efficient in the way you process the workflow of different projects. And all of those add up to larger margins, more efficiency, more volume for the firm from doing these things slightly differently. And the problems that led us to this conclusion that showed that there's a real need here. As we were surveying the firms who use Aiwyn today on payments, on engagement letters, it was really clear that there's a whole bunch of time being spent on a lot of manual billing tasks. Most of these firms are spending hours and hours a week just handling some of the tasks, not even getting to real time, but just the monthly billing cycles that they already are adapted to, the things that Rosemary is talking about. Part of the reason they're doing that is because they have all these different systems, including spreadsheets, which is how they manage all these different processes. And they're not talking to each other. And they're certainly not integrated in a way that allows them to be automated across and make each of them more effective as a result. And all that led to these firms, most of you guys, having longer billing cycles and longer days to collect than you really needed to. 50% of firms having AR that's 90 plus days in collections, outstanding. That's really damaging in the middle of tax season, in particular, when you may have to take out lines of credit just to make sure your staff are covered before cash flows in. And all of that stress meant that turnover was much higher in these firms. It was much harder to keep people in the door and then hire new folks because they just got tired of dealing with these disconnected systems. So we wanted to change that. And we've got our product today, but that product is by no means done. And it will continue to evolve every quarter, every month from here on out until the next century closes out, as Tanner was talking about in the beginning. And we want to talk about a few things that are coming up. On the billing side, in the now area, think of that as the next 3 to 6 months. Upcoming is post that, so think 27. Maybe a little earlier. Right now, we are working on refinements to our automated recurring invoice schedules. So you can set up a schedule on a project and bill out a retainer every month in a certain amount so you can collect funds on those. It can be progress, you can clear WIP, however you need to be set up. We also want to make sure that you have the ability to control the periods and the locking of those. So when you lock down, say, July, no more time can be added. The WIP cannot be moved around. It can just be put on invoices and billed out. And then finally, we're going to be building out a pretty significant adjustment to our rate card engine. Today, you've got a rate card and you have roles and you have overrides for staff members, and you kind of have a standard rate and a premium rate, maybe a couple other variables. But there's a whole host of reasons you would need to change rates, be it discounts for clients or offices charge different things, or you acquire a new firm and they have a different rate structure, or you bring in a new service line, you need to add that to the existing rate card. There's a whole bunch of reasons why things would change. And we want to make sure our rate card is a lot more flexible to handle the way things actually work within a firm. And so all that's going to be coming up now. And then in the next section, the upcoming ones, right now you've got progress that you can bill out on a project, but oftentimes we bill out maybe on one project and we realize that we needed it to be applied on somewhere else. And so we want to elevate the progress to the client level so you can move it around within a client record and not have to have some weird accounting measures just to get things right for the client. And then we have talked a lot about milestone billing and being able to automatically generate and send out bills based upon certain steps that get closed within the creation of a project. So that will be coming up pretty soon, as well as the ability to auto send out recurring invoices rather than just drafting one for billers to review. On the workflow side, we got a number of other really exciting things. If you could switch to the next slide, please. So a lot of stuff on this page. Don't have time to go into all of them, but a lot of this is really exciting. What we want to do is ensure that anybody can run their full workflow in tax, in audit, in CAS inside of the Aiwyn system, not just managing projects and then tracking time against them. And we also want them to be able to do some of their capacity planning and scheduling inside of the system where everything's tied together and works closely as one. And so a lot of this is setting the groundwork for us to be able to get there. That's being able to have a full scheduling tool, which we're in pilot right now with a small number of customers. Being able to automate the due dates of returns in particular. So every federal and state return automatically gets a due date applied to it from the statutory environments in a database that we house. And then if they change the dates of those returns, we will automatically update them for you. So you don't need to manually change anything. The ability to create a pool for high volume, standard complexity work so that staff can pull from them and it reduces the complexity of assigning out work. And then taking our project table, which right now just gives you a lot of details of how the project is at a high level, but really allowing you to drill in on the page itself so that managers can come in and see exactly what's going on across all their clients and all their staff members all in one place without having to drill in anywhere else, just saving a lot of clicks and giving them a much clearer visibility. And then coming up after that, we'll be making sure that you have a really robust system of notes and tagging on notes that you can apply to projects and tasks, and then roll them over or not roll them over as the projects get renewed for the next calendar year. In addition to custom fields and complexity ratings and subservice lines that go on to projects, so you have lots of details that you would need as you manage real projects in real time. And the final thing I'll highlight is the Outlook calendar integration. We've talked about this a number of times with a number of you guys, but that's where you can plug into your Outlook. You can pre-fill all your calendar events onto Aiwyn, and with a couple clicks of a button, you can turn those into time entries. So your real day is implied in, and you're much faster in getting time entries through the door. Again, trying to get you to real-time billing. There's a whole lot more you can go into, but that's probably enough for today. So that I'll turn it back over to Tanner, and we can answer some questions in real time.
Yeah, we've had a handful of questions come through. And so if you haven't seen them already, on the bottom menu on the Zoom link itself, you can see there are some questions that have been pass through, and thank you, Chad Thomas, on our team who's been answering these in the background live. If you've got other questions, please go ahead and submit those. We want to answer as many questions as we can, as I know this is really relevant time to be able to get in front of Chad and Hayden and other product leaders on the Aiwyn side. I do have one question coming in here. So Hayden, this one talks about we're currently on CCH. I think this is probably referring to CCH ProSystem. We have years of data and workflows associated with how we work there. How difficult have you seen the transition to Aiwyn Practice be? What surprised firms most during the implementation? Hayden, I'll let you answer that one, knowing that a handful of the first waves of firms have been on a CCH ProSystem platform.
The short answer is it can be as easy as you guys need it to be. We have an implementation team that comes alongside you the whole time and helps you bring this data in. We do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. The only thing we've seen cause a little bit of complexity or some slowdown in that process is the firm taking the time, rightly, to figure out what they want to bring over or what they want to change. So bringing in historical data around invoices or WIP or time entries, that's straightforward. But templates and the tasks that go into them, a lot of firms are using the opportunity of the switch to reconsider whether they need all those templates, whether they want to rechange the way they have tasks set up. And all that just takes time for them to coordinate internally because it's mostly change management, and the mechanics of the tool are actually pretty straightforward. So it really be up to the firm. Like, do they want to go really fast in the implementation process and therefore defer some of those change management discussions to later? They can get through much quicker, but maybe they want to have all the change done. So they use the transition to Aiwyn as an opportunity to really reset as a firm. Both of them were able to support well and are part of our standard process.
Fantastic. We got another question that says, if our firm's not ready to replace the entire practice management system on day one, can we adopt Aiwyn incrementally, or do you see the need to make a full switch? I'll take this one. So we see both happening, actually. So we do have a lot of firms who say we want to make the full switch, meaning we want a hard cut over. And if we're going to move specifically on Aiwyn Practice for all things time and billing and even the projects and engagement letters, they're moving wholeheartedly, and so we do see some firms do that. At the same time, like we have a good example, we have a private equity platform that is implementing right now. They've gone live with payments. They're going live with engagement letters this month, and then they'll move on to time and billing in later in this fall. So you can do it either way is the high level. I think the biggest thing here is just like Hayden was talking about, to have a design plan on how you want to roll out, have the buy-in from the team. Rosemary mentioned the data hygiene. Data hygiene is, especially when you're coming from a system you've had for 20 years, can really not be overstated. It is such an important part of this. Fortunately, our team can run through some of these things and try and highlight some of the areas to focus, but there's definitely some manual labor that has to be focused on there. We'll do one more question, and then I think we'll hop out. So we've got a question coming in. Actually, we've got a couple questions. We'll try and knock out both these questions. So one question said, we use CCH Practice and Thomson Reuters firm flow management workflow. Do you have experience in converting TR firm flow? Hayden, I'll let you answer that. I know we have some firms who use the firm flow side as well as Go File Room, but do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we have a decent amount of experience with firm flow on our payments side in particular, as well as engagements. We have not yet brought a firm live who is on firm flow, but we have one as implementation right now. And so we're working with them right now to figure out where the data sits. And really, with any system that comes over, it's just getting to the data, seeing exactly how the data is organized, and then figuring out the right way to map it in, either through a direct connection, or if we can't do that because the system doesn't play nice, then we figure out a way to export the data and then import on our side. Either way, we can get the data out in the right spot.
That's great. And then the last one, somebody asked, does the Rubino firm use projects in Aiwyn? And absolutely, they do use the projects module. And we've got a lot of templates that can be kicked off both from the engagement letter when those are set up, by service, by partner, by office. You can really cater those any way you want, with the tasks and the workflow that you're trying to achieve. Well, with that, we've just got a couple more things we want to run through. Two really important announcements. The first one here, we've got a survey that we are doing right now. This QR code we would love for you all to fill out. This has been really interesting. We're going to package and put a report together at the end of this year that's really going to show what we think the firm of the future looks like, and more so what you all are talking about when you see the firm of the future out there. Um, so we'd love to put this benchmarking out there. If you have time to fill this out, please do so. You'll also see this in email from us, and we'd love to get your feedback as we have this survey going about. And then lastly, again, we have our user conference, our customer conference coming up. It is the first week in November out in Las Vegas, and this is the best time to interact with the Aiwyn team. If you're evaluating more functionality or you're looking for new solutions in the future, we will have a full house here. We usually have about 150, 200 Aiwyn firms attend. We expect it to be the biggest ever, and you can get more information here. The registration is starting to fill up, but we really appreciate all of you continue to join. That being said, if you want more information just in general about Aiwyn, you actually have to opt in for the newsletters. And this is the QR code for the newsletter that you can opt into. Every month we put out a newsletter that talks about new functionality that we've launched. We talk about events we'll be at. We have updates for things like this, and it's the best way to keep in touch with the Aiwyn team. We really appreciate everyone joining and look forward to the next one. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me, tanner.fritz@aiwyn.ai, find me on LinkedIn, and we really appreciate everybody's time today. Thanks, Hayden, for leading us, and thanks, Rosemary, for joining.